term of the Joint Select Committee will be 30 days and is expected to report back its recommendation to Parliament after the expiry of 30 days.
Yale maneno ambayo bado hayajatatuliwa itatatuliwa na kamati ya watu 4.
How do we do the talking? CORD and Jubilee differ over planned formation of a joint select committee.
Indeed, I do belong to a cartel. The cartel I belong to is the cartel that believes in the rule of law.
Just a few remarks. I collect my books and I'm going away.
Drama at the Supreme Court as lawyer claims cartels controlling judges.
The governor's statement is a display of arrogant contempt.
Jitters in Jubilee after Kabogo questions automatic backing for William Ruto in 2022. And do you know the pet you're keeping in your house could be infecting your family with diseases?
Hello there, welcome to KTN Prime. Thank you for joining us. I'm Linda Ogutu. Maresha Owisi is our sign language interpreter tonight. She's at the bottom of your screen. Now, the attempts by the ruling Jubilee coalition and the Kenyan opposition coalition CORD to begin dialogue over the Electoral Commission have hit an early deadlock. The Jubilee team has dismissed CORD's demands for an initial crisis meeting to agree on how to iron out sticky issues before the official talks begin. CORD leader Raila Odinga told the nation that CORD and Jubilee had agreed on a 4-member team to meet within 24 hours. But Jubilee has denied there was such an agreement. And as KTN's Chris Thairu reports, CORD says as long as before the talks do not take place, their protests will continue.
The CORD leadership first held a meeting with interreligious leaders as well as foreign envoys seeking the way forward. But even after a whole day of consultations, there was no white smoke yet.
As things stand now, they are as they are until an agreement is reached. And no agreement is reached until the agreement is reached.
One of the main issues that CORD is not comfortable with is the decision by Jubilee that the Select Committee will operate under the standing orders, arguing that the committee will directly be accountable to the Senate and the National Assembly speakers.
A few outstanding issues as to how this committee is going to work. And those need to be discussed, negotiated, and agreed upon, together with the terms of reference for the committee. So those are the outstanding issues.
President Uhuru Kenyatta chaired a parliamentary group meeting that came up with a list of 11 members to represent the coalition, which included Senators Kireto Murongi, Kipchumba Murkomen, Beatrice Elachi, National Assembly members Moses Kuria, Jimmy Angwenyi, Cecily Mbarire, among others. Uhuru's stand that any talks must be conducted within the confines of Parliament has not changed.
And this has been our position for a very long time. And it still stands to be our position that at the end of the day, we can only do this through legally constituted means. And that it is Parliament that must take the lead and the initiative in this particular process.
The opposition is also not comfortable with the long list of Jubilee members, arguing that if they were to also select 11 members, then 22 members agreeing on something political remains a pipe dream. They have now proposed 2 members to resolve the outstanding issues first.
CORD will be represented in the talks by Senator James Orengo and Honorable Dr. Simiyu Esedi. We shall be able to communicate to the country a final decision on this matter within the next 24 hours.
However, sources within State House intimated to KTN News that Jubilee is not ready to fall into the trap of CORD and that their list of members to sit in the Joint Select Committee still stand. Now the new standoff is on how to get the dialogue going, and in the meantime, the planned demonstrations for Monday and Thursday next week still stand.
We are willing to discuss these issues so long as we follow the laid down procedure. Na sisi zote tutaleta maono yetu kwa hiyo kamati.
There are a few outstanding issues which are still being negotiated. So that tells you now we are now talking to each other. Yes. We are now not talking at each other. And that's the reason why we have even delegated this matter to be dealt with by just a team of 4. Yes.
Thank you, members.
Meanwhile, the Legal Affairs Committee and the Constitution Implementation Committee in the National Assembly has suspended the planned collection of views from Kenyans, which was slated to start next week until the 5th of July, to give the process initiated by both coalitions a chance. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
You're watching KTN Prime, and so CORD wants a 4-member team to spearhead the quote-unquote talk before talk. And you've just had President Uhuru Kenyatta there saying as long as they follow the laid out procedures. So clearly this is going to be another standoff, putting in mind that Jubilee has denied having talks with CORD with respect to forming the 4-member team. There was a meeting that was held today by CORD leaders, even as they came up with the 4-member team. And sources that are private to that particular meeting have given us some of the issues that CORD wants the 4-member team to look at. These are the issues that CORD wants to be addressed in that talk before talk. Before they become members of that select committee, before they give their own 11 members to be part of that select committee. Remember, that was talked about yesterday by President Uhuru Kenyatta in his presser that he gave yesterday in the afternoon. So this are some of the demands that CORD is making. So let's go back to the previous board before we move. The first board, please. The demands that CORD are making before they become members of that, they give their own members of that select committee. So CORD wants the talks to take 4 weeks. So the talks on IEBC, according to CORD, should not go beyond 4 weeks. They want the speakers of both the National Assembly and the Senate out. Whatever discussion is being had on the reforms on IEBC, they do not want either the Speaker of the National Assembly or the Speaker of the Senate to be involved. They want the process not to be subject to the standing orders of either House, the Senate or the National Assembly. Plus, they want to ensure that whatever decision is arrived at after the talks are done should not be rejected. There should be no option for rejecting the outcome of that process. So that's what CORD wants with respect to the process. Let's look at the membership of the select committee. CORD wants each coalition to give a maximum of 7 members. Remember, Jubilee has given 11. They say that number is too large. Each coalition needs to give a maximum of 7 members. These particular members, CORD does not want them to be subject to parliamentary approval. So whichever members form the 14, 7 from each side, CORD do not want them to be subject to parliamentary approval. So they want joint chairs, 1 from Jubilee, 1 from CORD, and then finally they want 4 joint secretaries, 2 from each coalition. But here's the thing, those 4 should not be parliamentarians or parliamentary staff. Okay, so what we do know at the moment is that Jubilee has just made it known that they're willing to allow CORD to nominate the 11 members to represent them in that select committee. Remember, they gave their team yesterday, the 11-member team, but today all eyes were on CORD. Everyone was hoping they were going to give their 11-member team. However, they've decided to come up with a 2-member team from their side. And if you listen to that presser by CORD leader Raila Odinga in the afternoon, he said he had been in talks with Jubilee, and Jubilee had also given their 2 members to be part of that 4-member team that was going to hold the talks before talks. And of course, that team, he said, already had, Jubilee had actually given their leader as well. So So let's see how this plays out in the coming days. So on our big question tonight on KTN Prime, we're focusing on that standoff to do with the IEBC, and we're asking you, do you agree with CORD that the two speakers should not be in control of talks over IEBC? CORD has made it clear in part of their demands that they do not want the two speakers either from the National Assembly or the Senate to be part of that process. That is one of their demands. So what do you think? Do you think this is a process that should be carried out without the involvement of the two speakers, either from the National Assembly or the Senate? Let us know what you think. Tweet us at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. Tweet me directly as well at Linda Gutu. I'd love to sample your views on it. Remember, this is a process that involves every single Kenyan, and the outcome largely will affect all of us. So I'd like to pick your mind and just know what you think about that process and the demands that are now being made by CORD. Let's now go to the standoff over the judge's retirement age at the Supreme Court, where drama ensued as a senior counsel, John Khaminwa, claimed there was a cartel of judicial officers and rogue government operatives eyeing the Chief Justice's seat. Khaminwa then announced his withdrawal from the retirement age case, citing instructions from his client, Kituo cha Sheria, which was an interested party in the dispute. KTN's Murimi Mwangi reports.
Thursday would turn out to be a rather unusual day at the Supreme Court. Senior counsel John Khaminwa, who was visibly irritated that his client Kituo cha Sheria had decided to quit from the judge's retirement age case, shook the country's top court with a special word of caution to Chief Justice Willie Mutunga and the entire five-judge bench.
My Lord, we cannot have our judges being as it were arm-twisted behind scenes, being blackmailed behind scenes, under the guise that certain people stand for the rule of law.
If you have specific allegations, they can come to me in writing so that I know how to process them.
Khaminwa claims there's a cartel of judicial officers and rogue government operatives working behind the scenes to kick out top judges at the Supreme Court and grab the Chief Justice seat.
You have to protect your judges. You have to condemn these cartels that I'm talking about.
We apologize for the sound quality in that story, of course, focusing on the Supreme Court drama, where senior counsel John Khaminwa claimed there was a cartel of judicial officers and rogue government operatives eyeing the Chief Justice's seat. We're working on that story. We're hoping to fix the sound, and once it's done, of course, we'll bring you that story again. But it's an interesting twist to that drama surrounding the judge's retirement case. Let's focus a little bit on politics now, and trouble is brewing within the Jubilee coalition, with Kiambu Governor William Kabogo finding himself under fire over alleged remarks questioning Mount Kenya's support for Deputy President William Ruto. Even as Kabogo explained what he meant, a section of Jubilee members have criticized him for insinuating that the Mount Kenya region may not support William Ruto come the 2022 general election. Timothy Otieno reports.
Na kama vile nilivyosema tukiwa Sagana, our support is there, but we also need to remember that we have to sit and agree. Lazima tujue Mount Kenya iko nafasi kubwa sana, tusikie joto ya serikali. Hatuliondoke kama kwa roika.
It is remarks made by Kiambu Governor William Kabogo during a funeral service in Juja town that may have rubbed many the wrong way. The issue now drawing sharp criticism from both friends and foe alike, revolving around their interpretation of a statement made by the governor on Tuesday. Critics maintain that Kabogo meant that the people of Mount Kenya may not automatically choose Deputy President William Ruto as their preferred presidential candidate come the 2022 general elections.
Na hatutaki mtu ambaye atakuwa peke yake anaongea kule, hajui ni nini inaendelea katika kaunti zile zingine, aharibu huo uhusiano ambaye tulipata.
But Kabogo has since come out to issue a response to his critiques, insisting that his statement was misinterpreted and that whoever wanted Central Kenya's vote would have to earn the trust and loyalty of the people.
I am a total supporter of the Deputy President. If he has a friend in Central Kenya, I could be number one. And I have said that this friendship between ourselves, or this marriage between ourselves and URP, is there to stay. It must be cultivated.
Ferdinand Waititu, Kabogo's political arch-nemesis, would be among the first to lay emphasis that Kabogo's stand was unwarranted.
Hiyo ni mkataba ambaye tulikuwa naye kutoka mbeleni 2013 na tukakubaliana sisi watu wa Mount Kenya tunachagua Uhuru kwanza akuwe rais amalize miaka 10, alafu tuchague Bwana William Ruto pia amalize miaka yake 10.
The Kabete MP banking his remarks on a gentleman's agreement between William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta that the two would support each other politically until the year 2032, ensuring 2 decades of a Jubilee administration rule in the country.
Hawa watu kwa kauli moja watatembea na sisi 100% Jubilee.
But Kabogo says not so fast.
Who lied to you that there is ever autonomy in politics? You are lying to your friend. If you tell me you will automatically support me regardless of what I do, I'll be lying to you.
However, Kabogo's statements have raised eyebrows in the Jubilee coalition.
Sio Kabogo tunangoja mwaka wa 2022 apigie ndugu yetu William Kipchirchir Samoei Ruto. Tunangoja wa Kenya,
yeye sio Jubilee, na yeye sio Uhuru, na yeye sio mwenye atapanga kuhusu 2022.
The fear among Jubilee members is that Kabogo's words, if taken seriously, are likely to cause a rift within the Jubilee camp and cause jitters within Ruto's support base. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
A family in Molo has buried their 8-year-old child who died after eating a poisonous seed. 3 other children who ate the same seed on Monday this week were rushed to hospital where they are receiving treatment. Victor Ogale has the details.
8-year-old Anastasia Nyambura, who was in the company of 3 other children, succumbed after consuming castor seeds. Anastasia and 3 other playmates could not resist the looks of castor seed, which to them appeared like a fruit. Little did they know they were taking a poisonous seed. According to the mother of the deceased, her child was admitted to hospital on Monday and succumbed on Tuesday.
Nikambia brother yake, ebu akisha moto ya jikoni, uhagere maji ya ugali tupike saa hii. Labda ni njaa, kwa sababu sikushinda. Vile tu alilala hivi, si mtu anakaa miguu hivi amejikuja. Alikauka hivyo. Niliamuka kama ameniita na nini. Alikuwa anafanya hivyo tu. Ukimuita wezi itika, saa hiyo macho imekauka, baka meno, baka nini, kila kitu ya mwili yake amekauka.
According to the 2007 edition of the Guinness World Records, castor seed is considered the most poisonous. Once ingested, symptoms begin to show within 2 to 4 hours. These include a burning sensation in the mouth and throat, abdominal pain, purging and bloody diarrhea, in most cases resulting to death.
Huduma mzuri, mtoto akipelekwa hospitali, akiambiwa akiwa mgonjwa, anafaa angaliwe, kama ni kupimwa apimwe. Huyo mtoto wangu hakupimwa, aliaga dunia hata kama hawajui ni nini, isipokuwa kusikia maneno ati ni mbegu alikula.
Mti huu ni mti ambao uko hapa kwa muda mrefu, ni mti ambao unajulikana hasa kwa Kikuyu tunauita mbariki. Na mbariki kama tunavyojua sio mti hatari kwa sababu labda hatukuelimishwa.
The castor plant that the children partook was growing in a neighbor's compound. Upon learning of the demise of the child and hospitalization of the other 3, villagers destroyed the tree bearing the deadly seed. The other children were treated at the Molo sub-county hospital and later discharged. The mother of the other children was still reeling from the shock and was unable to grant us an interview. Victor Ogale, KTN News, Molo, Nakuru County.
You need to listen to this next story, it's very interesting. It is a practice that is said to have been started by Nabongo Mumia of the Wanga and has since been copied by other sub-tribes of the Lohia community, burying prominent persons in a sitting position. Peter Gisienya, a chairman of elders in Kolomani, was buried seated as required of a tradition deeply rooted. And as KTN's Dorcas Wangira reports, even the church could not interfere.
The Wanga of the Abaluya community and their tradition are inseparable. It is believed that Nabongo Mumia began the practice of burying prominent people in a sitting position, one meant to connect the living and the dead, and has since been copied by other sub-tribes such as the Idaho. Peter Gisengi died at 80, being a chairman of the Wanga Council of Elders, a Kolomani representative, and also an advisor to the current Nabongo. Tradition had to be followed. Before dawn, elders had to speak to him, to persuade him to sit upright before they sat him in the coffin that would face the direction of his house, a tradition of the Ngusu Musitsialo clan of the Wanga known as Ngusu.
Ukizaa mtoto wa kwanza atairiwe, awe na mwanamke na watoto mbili, msichana aholeke mahali, awe na watoto. Sasa ukikufa utasikwa kama unakaa.
The viewing is simple, no open casket. Gisengi was also a Quaker, baptized at Shikulu Friends Church in 1940.
He has been an active member, plus his family. So we are burying him today in the Christian way. Although the family has their own way, but we have agreed we are burying him as a Christian.
In the end, it was decided that the Christian service be conducted first, then the Ngusu rites continue. But why has this tradition persisted so long, even with changing times and religion? The belief is that a different burial would leave the deceased restless, coming back to the living to demand a sitting position, so that he is received well in the other world.
Uko yake yote itaharibika, italalamika, na lazima asikwe akikaliwa hivi ndio uko iendelee kuishi. Bibi hapana, mkiomba hapana, mpaka awe tu msaliwa.
Kanisa haiziki, ni watasika baada ya kanisa, watamzika kimila baada ya saa 11.
Just like Adriano Lucho, who died 2 years ago and was buried the same way, other rituals would follow. After 40 days, another important one to remember him. So here sits, quite literally an epitaph would read, Peter Gisengi, who sat in life and also sat in death. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News.
Let's now revisit that standoff over the judge's retirement age at the Supreme Court, where drama ensued as the senior counsel John Khaminwa claimed there was a cartel of judicial officers and rogue government operatives eyeing the Chief Justice's seat. Khaminwa then announced his withdrawal from the retirement age case, citing instructions from his client Kituo cha Sheria, which was an interested party in the dispute. KTN's Murimi Mwangi has the details.
Thursday would turn out to be a rather unusual day at the Supreme Court. Senior counsel John Khaminwa, who was visibly irritated that his client Kituo cha Sheria had decided to quit from the judge's retirement age case, shook the country's top court with a special word of caution to Chief Justice Willie Mutunga and the entire 5-judge bench.
My Lord, we cannot have our judges being as it were arm-twisted behind the scenes, being blackmailed behind the scenes, under the guise that certain people stand for the rule of law.
If you have specific allegations, they can come to me in writing so that I know how to process them.
Khaminwa claims there's a cartel of judicial officers and rogue government operatives working behind the scenes to kick out top judges at the Supreme Court and grab the Chief Justice's seat.
You have to protect your judges. You have to condemn these cartels that I'm talking about.
Let me put it on record that indeed I do belong to a cartel. The cartel I belong to is the cartel that believes in the rule of law, in constitutionalism, in the independence of the judiciary, and a government limited by the Constitution.
If you have a specific allegations, if you've been threatened, you should say, give us the particulars, so that we can censure anybody, so that we can protect you.
And may I say with respect to Justice Ibrahim, you live in this country. You're not a foreigner. You have gone through what you have gone through. You know what happens in this country. And the matter touches on the rule of law. I collect my books and I'm going away. Well, I have been carrying them for 50 years.
The fierce bubble crossfire played out on the day that the court was hearing an application by activist Okia Omutata.
A court is not the name, a court is the judges.
Who wants the Supreme Court to disqualify itself from handling the dispute on account of alleged biasness by Justices Njoki Ndongo. Rawal, on the other hand, through lawyer Kioko Kilukumi, claims Mutunga and Justice Smokin Wanjala are likely to be biased in the final verdict, as the two sit in the Judicial Service Commission, which is kicking out Rawal and Tunoi on retirement. Now, with only 7 days to the retirement of Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, and with the Supreme Court under intense pressure to deliver a fair precedent-setting verdict on the stalemate, the drama surrounding the retirement age standoff is no doubt set to become even more intriguing in the coming days as the court edges closer to the final verdict. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for staying with us. So today, CORD gave a list of demands that it once met before they become part of that select committee that was alluded to by President Uhuru Kenyatta. So now, big question tonight, we're asking you. Do you agree with CORD that the two speakers should not be in control of the talks of IEBC? That is one of their demands. They do not want the Speaker of either the National Assembly or the Senate to be part of the talks of IEBC. Let us know. Tweet us at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. You can tweet me directly as well at Linda Gutu. I'd love to sample your views on it. Like I said, this is a conversation that revolves around all of us. It would be interesting and indeed important that we all be part of it. Let's now take a break on KTN Prime. We'll be back. KTN Prime. So, do you like cats? And if you like cats, do you have a big family? If you do, then this next story is meant for you. Now, are you aware that your pet cat could be passing diseases onto your family members? Vet doctors are warning that when members of your family get sick, especially from contagious diseases, ensure your pets also get treated if they exhibit the same symptoms. And it turns out that ignoring sickness in your pets can be very risky for your family members. Take a look.
In a recent lab test, doctors confirmed the existence of FIV in a domestic cat. The news of this disease generated a heated discussion among Kenyans. FIV, however, is in domestic cats, transferred through bite wounds or from mother cat to her kittens.
Because a cat has FIV does not mean that you are at risk of getting HIV. HIV and FIV are completely different and they cannot be exchanged between humans and cats. We have not had studies in domestic cats. There have been studies in the wild cats in the Mara.
The cat will have signs and symptoms such as fever, loss of appetite, progressive weight loss, recurrent bouts of illness, recurrent chronic diseases, poor coat condition and reproductive failure in female cats. There are a number of other diseases transmitted from the cats to humans in the household. These include typhoid and leptospirosis, which is felt as fever and diarrhea from contact or contaminated water. They also pass to us rabies from bites and toxoplasmosis, which affects the brain and is passed from cat fecal matter. Cats also give humans cryptosporidosis, which experiences intense fever and abdominal pains, cat scratch disease, among others. With these many potential risks of diseases from cats and other pets in our homes, prevention from contracting the diseases from transmission from pets to humans or from pet to pet is recommended.
Most of these diseases are very preventable. First, we can observe hygiene at home. We can be washing our hands before, after meals, before, after visiting toilets, before and after attending to our pets. We can also observe hygiene to our pets.
Kenyans are advised to be keen on their pets' health, As much as they are keen on their own health, a little more attention to your pet could be the difference between sound health in the home and a constantly sick household.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's bring you some breaking news now, especially if you have been focusing on the U.S. presidential campaigns. We have breaking news for you coming from there, and President Barack Obama has now endorsed Hillary Clinton for the November election. Obama described Hillary as the most qualified person in the race to do the job. His endorsement made note of the historic nature of Clinton being the first female presidential nominee of a major political party. Obama's endorsement of Clinton brings full circle a relationship that began when the two were rivals in the Hartford 2008 Democratic nominating contest. Here is part of that statement released on video by Obama a short while ago, of course, after he just met Hillary's rival Bernie Sanders.
Thank you for keeping it KTN News. Now time for business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. The current monetary penalty for violation of the Banking Act or the Prudential Guidelines is currently capped at 5 million shillings. During the budget reading on Wednesday, CS Henry Rotich said the amount has proved to be too little compared to the seriousness of some of the violations institutions have committed. He proposed to increase the maximum penalty to 20 million Kenya shillings and to allow for additional penalties for each day that the violation continues. Banking sector players, including Family Bank CEO David Thuku, have reacted to this proposal.
The foundation question to ask yourself is, why do you even get into penalty zone? The basics of banking are very simple. The industry rests on just one thing, confidentiality.
Yeah.
And the cabinet secretary is right that there has to be confidentiality in the sector, and if the penalty is what is going to make people do what they should do, then I guess is in the right direction. Now, how does confidentiality help within the industry? Why is it that important? It's because banks primarily just take money from customers. So the customer has to have the confidence that the money will be there when they need them. And the bank has to have the confidence that not every customer will come for their money at the same time. Because if they all come at the same time, the economy doesn't grow, because the banker will be forced to keep the money in their strong room waiting for the customer to come.
And as the dust settles after the budget reading, analysts have been giving varied reactions on the various tax measures proposed by National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich. Majority of the analysts feel the budget was overly ambitious, while others hold the view that the CS had little room to maneuver and he did the best he could to achieve a fair budget. KTN's Abiagina samples some of their views.
A day after the reading of the budget, and reactions have been coming in thick and fast. Many Kenyans are waiting to feel the exact impact of the 2016-2017 tax and spend plans.
The increase in the duty on kerosene by an extra 7,000 shillings per 1,000 liters, which is like 7 shillings a liter, and this will definitely affect the people who use kerosene in their day-to-day life, the paraffin lamps and stoves.
Stakeholders in the private sector and analysts have criticized the move to place value-added tax exemptions on cooking gas and arguing this was defeatist.
One of the things we are trying to say to government, move away from this idea of exempting things and make them taxable.
Despite the new proposals to raise the fuel levy to 18 shillings, Rajesh, a tax partner at PwC, notes this was in line as the government shifts focus to move from heavily relying on income tax to tax other items such as cosmetics and kerosene in a bid to consolidate consumption-driven taxes.
So if people are importing from EPZs now into Kenya for garments and footwear, that will be exempt from VAT and also import duty.
Manufacturers who emerged among the winners in this year's budget will enjoy tax breaks on animal feeds as well as leather and footwear products.
We've been seeing a lot of, importation of metal products, which have actually hurt our metal sector. And by government putting incentives in that sector, we are seeing a deliberate attempt, to safeguard the sector.
As the full effects of the budget trickle down, many say it was a concessionary budget that focused on roping in the fast-growing middle class whose appetite to spend has been on the upswing. Abi Agina, KTN Business.
Power consumers may soon find a reprieve from power outages after Kenya Power started live maintenance of its network without switching it off. The power utility has deployed live line maintenance technology across the grid in an effort to minimize power interruption, enhance supply, and generate more sales. The new initiative is being deployed to ensure Kenya Power minimizes and eventually eliminates the need to switch off customers to undertake repair works, routine maintenance, system reinforcement, and connection of new customers. So far, Kenya Power has invested 720 million shillings in the first phase of the project, while the World Bank has injected an additional $2 million towards implementation of the second phase.
Interruptions arise from vegetation management. And so most of the work associated with vegetation management is going to be done by this particular, using this particular technology. And therefore, it's a worthwhile investment.
In the very near future, maybe in 5 years, just like in the US or in South Africa, we are going to have the private sector entering into this industry. What we mean is that many companies will also maybe be contracted by Kenya Power to maintain lifeline in the various parts of this country as we expand outside the services, as we expand our electrification system.
Accra, Ghana has been named as the latest city to join Uber's booming network in Africa. The economically vibrant hub is the first city in Ghana to receive the service. With a thriving urban population, Accra's 2.27 million people will have access to efficient transport through the ride-sharing platform and become the 467th city worldwide to join the Uber club. Uber has proven popular across the world's cities for its provision of affordable, safe and reliable transport. Through an easy-to-use platform, it connects drivers with riders in real time at the touch of a button. Uber is celebrating its launch in Accra by providing free rides which Ghanaians can try out by accessing the Uber app. Well, let's now take a look at the financial markets, give you an update on how the US dollar as well as the pound sterling and the euro are performing against the Kenyan shilling, and also a look at the listed companies. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Thank you all for watching.
Let's look at sports now. The 64th edition of the Safari Rally heads into Nakuru County this weekend, and drivers will be expected to cover grueling 150 kilometers to Elementaita. And as Moses Wahisi reports, the rally is touted as the most adventurous rally of the season, with dozens of fast and furious cars expected to spice up the KCB Safari Rally.
The 64th edition of the KCB Safari Rally promises to live to its billings as one of the world's toughest rally as drivers head to Nakuru County on the weekend of June 10th and 12th. But before rally day, scrutineering it is, with all drivers eager to drive and big county among the stars. Car Flash Tundo's six-time champion Ian Duncan and defending champion Jasprit Chate, together with Cabra's lead driver Baldev Chaga, will be battling for the podium finish, and it will sure not be an easy ride.
We are already leading the championship this year. It's not very comfortable, but we want to keep it that way. We want to keep it keep on top of the points all the way to the end of the season and win the championship.
In the two-wheel drive category, the so-called usual suspects, including Leo Varase, Eric Bengi and Sami Nyori, among others, will be up against each other, anticipating an improvement in their rankings.
We're all prepared, we're all set, and looking out to have fun, because I believe the primary thing in doing the rallies is having fun. But again, we're all set and prepared for the competition.
The Nakuru Safari Rally is touted as the most adventurous rally of the season, and youngster Karan Patel, who made his debut in the World Rally Championships this year, is also geared to sparkle.
I would love to be the winner and come out on top, but I'm looking for a top 3. If I get anywhere near there, I'm more than happy and I'll be very satisfied.
The ceremonial start of the rally will be at KICC, scheduled to take place on June 10th, and it will see Jasprit Chate first off the ramp as drivers battles for the top honors.
An epic rally it promises to be, with different drivers eager to star during this weekend rally. But of key importance is safety for all. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
In another sports story from Uasin Gishu County, a former member of the national under-21 national team who played in Italy in late 80s now sells charcoal along Langas Eldoret Highway as a source of livelihood. The once sought-after player had dwindling misfortunes in what could be termed as a case of riches to rags story. Elvis Kosgei reports.
Patrick Alfred Namai's story runs like the proverbial grass to grace, back to grass. This is the latest trade Patrick Alfred Namai has occupied himself with to put food on the table for his family. Never mind, he once stand up for the national football under-21 team in the 1980s. His glorious past while on the top flight football remains just a mirage.
Na passport hapa, hata hii nguo hii ni misura, hii ni Inter Milan.
He's best remembered as the member of the national under-21 player who played in Italy in 1986. While a student at Kakamega High School, Patrick played with Belgium-based striker Michael Koth in secondary school games and was a classmate of mine in cabinet secretary Najib Balala.
Sifa zangu hazionekani, zinapotea. Sioni, sababu mimi sasa hivi nakuuza makaa, hebu niambie. Si mimi nimekwisha.
Patrick has a rich football CV, having played for KCC Eldoret and Rivertex. He was also an employee of the defunct KCC, and when the creamery went under, he now survives on selling charcoal around the Langas estate, but is still a keen football fan.
Sasa hivi nilikuwa kama wanyama hiyo masiku. Nilikuwa na watu kumsaidia. Si nilikuwa hapa sasa hivi, nilikuwa kama wanyama sasa hivi. Nilikuwa mbali sana. Lakini sikupata mtu.
However, FKF Leaders Eldoret branch blames some of the players for their lavish lifestyle, which is not a case for Patrick.
Hawa vijana pia mara nyingi wakati wana mikakati wanacheza mpira, wanaishi kwa maisha ya anasa.
And you find these players were picked mostly from schools, no further training taken place so that they can fit into the job market.
From a celebrated footballer to a charcoal vendor, but according to Patrick, Alfred and I, all is not lost because he has greater chances to transform football in this country. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News in Uasin Gishu County.
Let's cross borders now. Butterflies were released on Wednesday in honor of Muhammad Ali in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, as the city prepares to say goodbye to its native son. The butterflies were released was part of the I Am Add-on, the rugby knowledge to young players drawn from different regions before taking part in a rugby festival organized by sports betting company Mcheza. Frank Wanyama, Oscar Yodi, Colin Sinjera, Humphrey Hayange, Captain Andrew Amonde, Oscar Ouma, William Baka and Biko Adema will each coach a team for 2 days as well as lead them to competition on the 25th of June.
I also see one of my seniors around, Joe Muniafu.
Because I'm noticing the Kenya Sevens players and the coach here.
Because 6.5, I think, for the tournament itself, and then the rest will. I think we are ready for.
The
this seventh version is that one which you don't want to run for?
Any other questions from the media? No? That's it for now. Thank you. So we're hoping to take a picture or two.
How are you going to ensure there is a proper transition? Because we're talking about tournament young players.
This tournament, as other than it being one that we're looking at who's new in the playing field, is going to be a chance for people to interact with players they've been seeing only on TV and sometimes only briefly in press conferences and when they're arriving from the various destinations. So,
not only do we want to promote these kinds of talents, we need to speak about responsible gaming. We are one of those players that decide to put it out there that we are promoters of responsible gaming. Gaming is about entertainment. Gaming is about having fun. And we encourage, and I will repeat, we encourage players to only stake what it is you can afford.
You're watching KTN Prime. Let's remind you of a big question just before we wrap this bulletin up. We asked you if you agree with CORD that the two speakers should not be in control of the talks of IEBC. That is one of the demands being made by CORD. A good number of you actually have tweeted us. Mwangi Martin says, the fact that CORD wants things to go their way is not at all a way to make things right. They are not ready to settle. David Olusi says the two speakers are not neutral. They are custodians of the abusive tyranny of numbers. And finally, Abdi Fabizo says CORD are just playing clever politics. So who's going to chair the discussions? And still, in the same breath, remember CORD leader Raila Odinga categorically stated today in the afternoon that he had been in contact with Jubilee and they agreed on the formation of the two-member team. So we've just received a statement right now from Jubilee, and they say we as Jubilee Party are bound by rules and procedures of Parliament, which require that the members be approved by Parliament, and we undertake as Jubilee through our parliamentary group and whips to ensure that the names suggested by the parties are passed. Remember, one of the conditions that CORD was putting across is that these individuals should not be approved by Parliament. Jubilee goes on to say it is Jubilee Party's position that the issue of chairmanship is a dynamic and should be sorted out by the committee itself. The tradition, they go on to say, practice and standing orders of Parliament recognizes the Clerk of the National Assembly as an independent institution to be the secretariat of all parliamentary committees. History and Hansard reports prove the independence of the office. We will not allow the independence of and there is no room for injection of strangers into parliamentary business. Okay, as Jubilee, we will engage professionals on relevant matters to advise on our position to be presented to the Select Committee, and we urge our colleagues in CORD to do the same. Finally, they say, as Jubilee Party, we agree that the two speakers should not be involved in the negotiations. The two speakers should perform their constitutional mandate under the standing order to ensure the committee acts in accordance with the standing orders of the Constitution. That is the latest statement that we have just received from Jubilee, of course, in relation to the demands that were being made today by CORD. That is where we wrap it up on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. You'll have Betty Charlo tomorrow on Friday briefing. Have a good night. I'm Linda Ogutu.